Okay, hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to JFD Brokers Traders Espresso with me, Darius Chauskas. Today's the 11th of July 2018, so yep, welcome to this Wednesday's morning session where we're gonna have a look at a few instruments that I've picked, and I believe that they're quite interesting to keep an eye on. So yep, but before we do that, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So the content of this webinar does not constitute an investment advice or investment recommendation and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Also, just a very quick reminder of our JFD Brokers research page, where you can go in and have a look at different analyses that we do on a daily basis. We throw out different trading shoutouts. And yeah, guys, I think you can find something useful here for yourself. So yeah, feel free to check us out. But for now, let's jump into the chart. So the first one I want to touch on, guys, is the FTSE 100. Now, the FTSE is, well, yesterday we saw, or actually I would reiterate that on Monday we saw a nice break here and a nice pop here to the upside. We've broken out through this downside resistance line, and yep, we can see that we've tested this key area of resistance at around 77.10 that I had marked here for quite a while. And certainly now the question here is this going to be seen as a nice positive for the bulls to jump in and drive this one higher, or actually it is just like a small breakout here from which we will reverse lower? So judging by the currently by the cash index, we can see that we're getting a slide lower, and we could eventually, well, we're probably going to see a gap here today, and where the price is going to open a little bit lower. So this is the point probably where it's going to become interesting, because we are going to be testing this downside resistance line from above, and we'll just have to see and wait and see if it's going to actually act as a nice trampoline here for the index to make a move higher again and aim for the 77.10 mark. So if to put actually a 4-hour chart in this one, so this is what I was just talking about. So basically, because like I said, we're going to probably open up and here lower a little bit below the closing price, yesterday's closing price. So keep an eye on this line, guys. I mean, if suddenly we start reversing back down and we see strong moves back below this downside resistance line, well, I mean, keep also an eye on this little, well, we can actually call it a tentative support line here, upside support line. Now, if we do get a break here below this one as well, I mean, this could open the path towards these lower levels again, so the 75.45 and then the 75.10. So good areas to watch, but only if, of course, if we get a break here below this this tentative upside support line. But for now, of course, let's keep on monitoring this one, this slightly kind of longer term than this one, this downside resistance line. Let's see if it's going to act as a nice trampoline here or not, because if it does, and we do get a reversal back towards these highs, towards the 77.10, this is where it could become quite interesting. So for example, we could actually position ourselves here, like by entering a possible trade here at around 77.10. Let me just kind of adjust this. There we go. And this is where, like I said, you could eventually place your stop loss just carefully somewhere, depending, of course, on your risk appetite. And if it's a short trade, if you don't want to keep it, you don't want to keep it for too long, you could eventually put your stop loss somewhere around here, around these highs that we saw here on the 29th of June, and aim for the highs that we had here at around the 14th of June. So your target price here could be around the 77.95 mark, or maybe actually the round number of 7,800. It depends on you guys, but just I'm talking about a nice area here. So potentially we could see a nice trade here, but only if we get a nice move here above this 77.10 mark, and we could, if let's say the price action it will look if the price action is going to continue pushing higher. So, but to be honest, like I said, the 77.10 acted as a very nice area for resistance, so potential break of it could open the path towards the these higher levels here at around 77.95. So keep an eye on this one, guys, but like I said, don't forget your stop loss on this one. Let's quickly touch on gold, and let's put a daily chart on this one first. And we can see that we had a nice slide down yesterday. We broke the 1251 mark approximately there, and but then the bulls managed to kind of drive it back up here, but still, nevertheless, it wasn't enough for the bulls to kind of close this commodity in the green. So it closed in the red, and we can see now a continuation to the downside here. Because we already had quite a decent slide here to the downside, I mean, and we can see that the 1251 is getting tested now again. This is where you should probably remain cautious, because looking at the 4-hour chart, yep, at the moment it does look weak, but like I said, keep an eye on this 1251. Be very careful here. Certainly, some could say that yep, you could enter a position here and then go lower, aim maybe for the 1245 initially, and then maybe eventually towards this long-term upwards moving trend line that has been running here since the end of 2015. So very good and strong upside trend line to watch here, certainly. But that is, of course, if we get a continuation move to the downside here and a move away from this 1251, and then we start breaking the 1245. Certainly you could eventually maybe try to risk it here. The only thing is probably, you know, better safe than sorry, to be honest, because at the moment this is it looks attractive more to the downside, but nevertheless, I mean, you know, we could get a nice reversal here, because we can see that the 1251 continues to hold, and at the moment, I mean, it's early in the morning here in Europe, and we could maybe see a reversal back to the upside here, maybe a test of these yesterday's highs. So for now, guys, I would probably recommend to stay sharp here and just keep an eye on this one. If you see a move lower, if you start seeing the moves below these below the lows of this candle, let's say, then yes, I mean, you could eventually, I mean, position yourself maybe for a potential target of 1245 and then lower. But for now, keep on monitoring this one, because you can see that the it is a bit tricky on this one, and even though we are more, well, it is sympathizing more to the downside rather than the upside. For the upside, we would need to see a nice move and nice push above the 1261, and then eventually a close on the daily chart above the 1261 in order to kind of consider higher levels here. But so for now, we're not here yet, so at the moment we're just gonna keep on watching this 1251. Okay, so looking at the euro dollar, and again, let's put a daily chart on this one, and certainly we can see that, yep, on a bigger picture, we are still below this downside kind of resistance line here, running from the 16th of February, around there, and we're still below that. Certainly, we are kind of way below that. This is where someone could probably argue that, oh yes, I mean, we could end up moving higher here and testing this downside resistance line. But to be honest, for now, it just we can see that we are stuck here in this range between the 118,400 and the 115,100. So quite a big range, here, and certainly we can see that it tried to climb higher. Initially it met its resistance at around 117,250, but then it had a nice break to the upside. But yesterday we saw a decline here to the downside, and now we're currently testing this area, the 117,250 again, slightly above it, of course. Let's put a 4-hour chart on this one, guys, and we can see that we're testing it, and we're actually getting a nice bounce here, and this is where sometimes it's good to have a look at it from the closer picture here. So we're seeing a nice kind of rejection here at around this 117.250 now, certainly, and some of you probably can see this. This is what it's building up, and this is where it could be interesting, because this is how we could eventually position ourselves here for a possible trade. So we can see that, yep, it's trying to push higher. Now, if it does make a move higher here and makes a move above the 117.500, now this is where it could become interesting, because like I said, this is where we could end up positioning ourselves for a possible long trade. And also, just to kind of quickly mention, we were above this short-term upside support line, where we can see that we've broken it to the downside, then moved higher, then broken. So probably now it becomes a bit irrelevant, so we can get rid of it. And now we're just going to examine this little formation here, so which is kind of becoming quite attractive. And certainly this is how you could eventually position yourselves for a possible trade. So if you're, for example, looking for a bit of a long here, certainly could play out. This could be one of the scenarios that could play out. And certainly, let me just kind of quickly adjust this. So if you enter approximately around here, the 117.500, maybe slightly above it, you could eventually target this high that we had here on the 11th, on the 9th, on Monday, and that was around the 117.900. You could eventually target that initially. Of course, have your stop loss in place. It would be a nice stop loss to have. Well, again, this is something objective, because you could have your stop loss very tight here around the lows that we had here just today. So that's around the 117.200. But if you want just to kind of allow it a bit more maneuver space, so you could actually position yourself something here, so towards the 117.80, let's round it up there, and a good stop loss could be seen here. But in that case, probably you would have to target the 118,400, the level that I was talking about just recently, the higher end of the range, so the bigger range that the pair is still within. So something like this could be a possible trade initially. Like I said, if we are in profit here, quickly, probably recommendation, put your stop loss straight up in front of your entry price, just in case it suddenly reverses and moves back down, and so that you wouldn't suffer that many losses. So let's say like that. And yep, like I said, keep an eye on the 117.900 initially, and then a little bit higher. But this is, again, I will repeat myself, this is a scenario if we get a nice move here above, well, initially towards the 117.500, and then maybe start breaking the 117.500. So keep an eye on this one, guys. And one more pair that I really wanted to touch on is the USD, actually quickly jump in the GBPCAD. Now it won't take too long of your time here, but on this one, so just quickly wanted to show you something as well, how you could position yourselves for today. We do have some news coming out of Canada, so we do have the BOC today, and announcing its interest rates. And so you can see currently we are stuck here in this above this upside support line, the short-term upside support line, and but still below this 174,500 resistance line. So keep an eye on this one, guys. I mean, this could be something of a nice trade building up here. So if we consider this to be a nice area of resistance, so eventually if we do get a nice pop here to the upside, this is where you could potentially position yourselves for a nice trade of something like this. Let me just quickly adjust this. So potential trade idea, certainly it might work, well, it might not work, but nevertheless, still we can consider this one. So initially aiming for the level here at around 175,550. Let's round it up here a little bit. So yep, this is how you could eventually position yourself. So aiming for entry price could be a break of the 174,500, and then aiming for the 175,550. Of course, have your stop loss in place. I mean, that's very important, guys. And your stop loss could be around here somewhere. Let me just get rid of this, at around 173 850, something like that, because if we do get a break of this upside support line to the downside, we could end up pushing lower a little bit. So for now, keep an eye on this one. It could be something interesting building up here. And USDCAD, so not even gonna jump into the daily chart, because we can see that we've on Friday, when the job numbers came out, we had a nice move lower here. We broke out of the range that it was this tight range between the let me just kind of zoom in here a little bit. So between the 131 to 200, approximately 250, yeah, 131 250, which was actually the high that we had here in March, and so the highest point in March, and another level here, the 131 600. So we're stuck in this 35 pip range. So at the moment we can see that the rate kind of is stuck here again, so it moved back up, and now we're going to be awaiting for another move here, either to the upside, either to the downside. But to be honest, because it was, well, because the rate kind of initially moved out of it, but then actually didn't go far as expected here. It didn't even go towards this 130-13500 level as a good area of support. It actually reversed back straight away back up and moved back inside this range here. And now, of course, this is kind of looking more bullish, to be honest, than bearish, but nevertheless we cannot really assume that yet until we get a nice break here through the upper side of the of this little tight range. So the 136-600, this is where how you could position yourselves eventually. You could eventually enter maybe a trade here at around 131-600 with a tight stop loss at around 130-250, or even actually slightly below at around 200, just to allow a bit of room for it, and then aim for these highs that we had here on the 2nd of July, or even actually slightly higher towards the 132-650. So this is could be more of a longer term trade. Certainly keep an eye on it, guys. Could play out nicely, but for that one, I would probably say, like I said, we need to see a nice break here through the 131-600. Okay, guys, I'll have to wrap it up here. I kind of went a bit over my time, but nevertheless, thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope you found it useful, and if you want to join me later on in my Traders Tea Time, and that's 13:15 GMT, 14:15 British Summer Time. But for now, thank you very much, and bye-bye.